Hey there, welcome back to another video. Just like last time, my name is Nick. Got my notes right here like always, and today I'm going to be taking my best guess at where I think some NHL trade deadline players could end up come the trade deadline, which is March 6th by 3 p.m. Eastern. Starting off with number one, I have Ryan O'Reilly of the Nashville Predators. I think he is a perfect candidate for a trade at the deadline. He is in the third year of a 4 year contract, and he has a cap hit of $4.5 million for the next year and a half or so. I think he'd be a good fit in two teams, and they are actually both teams that he would be returning to from prior stops in his career. First one, I think, is Buffalo. I think he would really help the Sabres out. The Sabres are currently on a tear right now after firing Kevin Adams as their GM. And I think he could be a good veteran voice to to the Sabres. They're a pretty young team. None of them really have any playoff experience because the Sabres as an organization haven't made it to the playoffs in, I think it's 14 years, 13 or 14 years now. So I think he would be a good veteran presence in that locker room, kind of guide these younger guys. I'm not saying they're going to go on a run for the cup, but I think he could help them out if they do make the playoffs. Buffalo ends up being buyers at the deadline. I think he'd be a really good fit at the center, the second center position behind Tage Thompson on the depth chart. He'd give you some scoring. He has his stats currently. He has 46 games played, 13 goals, 26 assists for 39 points. Pretty solid numbers, not quite point per game, but you never know what could happen if he ends up going to Buffalo and getting second line minutes. I also think he might be a good fit in Colorado, not knowing how Gabe Landeskog's going to end up doing injury wise. I think he could be a good candidate for Colorado to circle back on him now that he's a veteran, not drafted straight into Colorado's system. But if he goes to Buffalo, I think a good trade would probably be O'Reilly going to the Sabres, and in return, Nashville probably would take Alex Tuch's contract off of the Sabres, kind of that one for one contract swap. And then I think Nashville would also be able to get like a third round pick for Ryan O'Reilly. But going on to our second one, I think this is probably the biggest and probably most controversial choice I made as to the destination of this player. It is Jason Robertson of the Dallas Stars. Now, this is all, kind of depending on if the Stars find it reasonable to re sign him. He is an RFA at the end of this season. He is in the final year of his contract with a $7.75 million cap hit. And rumor is he's looking for up to $12 million for his next cap hit, which Jason Robertson I think is pretty much worth $12 million, especially with the cap going up next season. I think it will be interesting to see if Dallas decides to part ways and use that money somewhere else. I get that. I think a good fit for Jason Robertson would probably be the San Jose Sharks. Now, hear me out. If I'm Mike Grier, GM of the Sharks, I will do almost anything to get Jason Robertson in San Jose, short of trading Macklin Celebrini, because Macklin Celebrini is the future of this team. But think about Mike Grier having Macklin Celebrini, Will Smith, Michael Misa, and Jason Robertson all on the same roster. That would be a terror to deal with for defenses and opposing coaches for the next 8, 9 seasons. Realistically, though, I think a trade for Jason Robertson would have to include either Will Smith or Michael Misa. I don't know that all four of them would end up on the Sharks at the same time. But the trade that I have proposed that I think might actually work if Dallas is just looking to move on from Jason Robertson is bringing in Alex Wemberg. He is in the last year of his current deal, but he already has an extension signed. It's a 3-year deal worth $6 million per. I think they could get a first-round pick for Jason Robertson, definitely a first-round pick. But the Sharks have 2 first-round picks this year. They have theirs and they have the Edmonton Oilers. So I would give the better of the 2 first-round picks to the Stars, which I believe at this point right now is Edmonton's pick. I could be mistaken, but I think Edmonton's pick is better than San Jose's. And then San Jose also has 2 second-round picks, so I included San Jose's second-round pick also going to Dallas. In return, the Sharks get Jason Robertson. And the Sharks have already made a few minor deals moving out contracts so that they have the space on their rosters to bring in contracts. So I think they're going to be making some kind of deal. Don't necessarily know that it's going to be Jason Robertson to the Sharks. I just think that would be a really good fit. Have a nice young core of pretty elite players because let's be real, Jason Robertson should be going to the Olympics and he got snubbed. But Jason Robertson's stats up to this point in the season, he has 47 games played, 27 goals, 28 assists for 55 points. Imagine that being added to Macklin Celebrini with the San Jose Sharks. For my third pick, I have Andrew Mangiapane of the Edmonton Oilers. He is on the first year of a 2-year deal with a $3.6 million cap hit. He currently has 42 games played this season for 5 goals, 6 assists, 11 points. I think a good fit for Mangiapane would be the Seattle Kraken. They're currently third in the Pacific at the time that I am recording this, and I think that he would be a good depth player to add to the Seattle organization. I know that's kind of like all their team really seems to be is just depth players from other teams, but I think Mangiapane's pretty good. I think him in Edmonton is not a great fit. That's just me personally. But I think he could help them. He's been on some deep runs in the playoffs before. Maybe not, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. He's been to the playoffs before, though. So I think he could really help out this Kraken organization. The Kraken also have more than enough cap space to bring on him and possibly somebody else, maybe even a little bit bigger of a name. They currently have $10.3 million in cap space available. But the trade that I have proposed for Andrew Mangiapane is the Kraken get Mangiapane, and Edmonton would either get a second or a third round pick. I don't think they would get both for what he's done this season so far. My fourth player that I decided to highlight and make a mock trade for is Anthony Stolarz of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's in the last year of a 2-year deal currently with a $2.5 million cap hit, but he already has his next contract signed. It's a 4-year deal with a $3.75 million cap hit for those 4 years. He hasn't seen that much time this season because he's been dealing with injury. He's currently on the IR. I think they said it was some nerve damage or nerve pain, something along those lines that he's been dealing with that's kept him out for a little bit now. But currently he has a record this season of 6 wins, 5 losses, 1 overtime loss, a goals against average of 3.51, and a save percentage of .884 with 0 shutouts. In his absence, Woll and Hildeby seem to have proven that they are a suitable NHL goaltending tandem. And I think Toronto might not mind moving on from Anthony Stolarz and maybe taking that $3.75 million and helping a different part of their roster with that money. I think a good fit for Anthony Stolarz. This is another player returning to a team that he was on earlier in his career. And the reason that I am wearing the Flyers, I think the Flyers should really take a look at bringing Anthony Stolarz back. Danny Briere, make it happen. I've always been a fan of Anthony Stolarz. He looked a little shaky earlier in his career. I think that time in Florida really helped him out. He's been the backup to some really good goalies, and I think he has kind of taken that step. He did really great last season in Toronto, and I think teaming him up with Dan Vladar, now both of them deal with injury problems. Like currently, Dan Vladar's out with an injury. I get that, but I think we could have a real 1A, 1B situation in Philadelphia if you take Anthony Stolarz and Dan Vladar, put them together. Not a big fan of Sam Erison. You can keep Sam, maybe push him down to Lehigh Valley and make him your number 3 because you know with the two of them, you're probably going to be dealing with injuries, even if he's just coming up to sit on the bench as a backup. I think the less amount of games Sam plays, the better he does. I think he's NHL backup caliber, not NHL starter caliber. And that kind of makes sense because he was kind of thrown into being an NHL starter when the whole Carter Hart stepping away from the team situation happened. Not that that's his fault, but I think Dan Vladar, Anthony Stolarz would probably shore up the weakest spot in Philadelphia's roster for possibly the past decade. I don't know that there's a Flyers fan that would argue with that. So this mock trade that I have, this is probably controversial. Flyers fans probably might not like this, but I have Philadelphia getting Anthony Stolarz and Toronto getting Jet Luchenko and a fourth round pick. I have not been impressed by Jet Luchenko at the NHL level. He hasn't made it past his 10 game mark that would burn a year off his contract. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, I think he only has 5 points in that very few sample size that we've seen for him. Now we have number 5. And this one's kind of a twofer. But I don't have one player. I have a team that I think will be making a big splash because it seems to be their MO, and that is the Vegas Golden Knights. I have 2 players that I would not be surprised see end up in Vegas at the trade deadline. And that is Elias Pettersson from the Vancouver Canucks, who currently has 39 games played, 13 goals, 16 assists for 29 points. He is in the second year of an 8-year deal that carries an $11.6 million cap hit. And that second player, Artemi Panarin, currently has 47 games played, 16 goals, 35 assists for 51 points. He is in the last year of a 7-year contract that also carries an $11.6 million cap hit. The Rangers already announced that they are not offering Artemi Panarin a contract extension. So you know he's moving. Don't know where he's moving, but we all know that Vegas loves the shiny new objects. And I could see Vegas overpaying for either of these players. I think if they go with Panarin, they're going to have an easier time telling the Rangers, hey, retain some of his salary for the rest of the season. If you're thinking you're not making the playoffs, retain the salary. We'll take him, and we'll give you. You like first round draft picks? You like young players? Because that just seems to be what Vegas does. Like, look at Montreal. I wanted to say Toronto. That was not okay. Look at Montreal with Nick Suzuki from the Max Pacioretty trade. That has worked out swimmingly for the Canadiens. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just lump a big package of draft picks, young prospects, maybe a player that they have decided they're not bringing back, send them to the Rangers, bring in Artemi Panarin. Elias Pettersson would be interesting. I think they could, if Vegas wants Elias Pettersson, he's going to be in Vegas. He's going to be wearing the Golden Knights helmet on his chest. I'm just not sure how they would want, if they would want him for the next 6 years, which means he would probably end up getting flipped for somebody else. But let me know what you guys think. Who do you think is going to get traded? Where do you think they're going to go? What do you think about the 5 predictions that I made as far as players going somewhere? Let me know in the comments down below. If you made it this far, you might as well hit that subscribe button. And when you hit that subscribe button, you're going to help me fund my hat addiction, which will make you see your favorite team's hat on my head when I make a video on them the next time. But until then, bye-bye.